Hello and welcome to our Experience Birch as a Learner webinar. I'm Kylie Marie. I'm the Client Success Manager here at Be Online Learning, and today I'm going to be taking you through our Birch platform. So we'll look at the key components that make up the Birch platform before we actually explore it as a learner. We want to hopefully get you familiar with some of the terminology and the functions and features that you may encounter when you use Birch. There is a chat box where you can submit questions. What we'll do after the session is, if there are any questions that are asked in that chat, I will send them a response back to you in an email. Okay, so now we'll get into the detail of the key components, that is Birch. The first component we have here is our goals. So this, in plain English, is where we store or group our learning and training requirements. For example, and some of the more common goal types that we see is items for mandatory training or induction and orientation goals. Then we have the learning and training requirements that are the second component of Birch, which we call elements. They are the different types of learning activities that may be completed. So we'll have events that cover your workshops or conferences. We have document sign-offs where you can upload certificates or licenses and have them verified. We have e-learning modules, sometimes often referred to as SCORM. We have on-the-job assessments, which are that they have criteria set for an assessor to mark a learner against. And we have our documents, document view, where you can view a policy or procedure or a link to a video and then kind of confirm that you've seen it. So how do we deliver these goals and elements? We have connections. So we want to make sure, and we want to make it easy as well, that people get the training and the learning that they need, and they don't have to see what they don't have to see. So, for example, we may have one induction orientation goal for your whole organisation. But as a corporate staff member, you probably need to see different elements to that of perhaps your frontline staff or your customer serving staff. So you would each have a specific but different connection against your profile, and we would apply that connection to the relevant training and elements. And what the platform does is it sees this as a connection, and it will only show you what connections match. So you only see what you need to see. And for those that deal with training matrices, it kind of brings it to life, which is pretty cool. And it's always one less thing we have to think about when we're doing our own training. So the final component of Birch is our tags. So as a learner, you'll mostly see your tags as categories in the goal catalogue. But on top of that, what you probably won't see, but they are used as well to group particular elements together, help generate reports or group goals, and help refine those reporting parameters. Okay, now it's time for the test of going into Birch as a learner. So bring up our good old friend Hyacinth and log in. Now, this login screen, depending on how your organisation uses Birch, you may see this. If your organisation uses single sign-on, then you'll probably never see this page. It will take you straight to your dashboard. So if we just sign in, generally it will take you straight to here. So our dashboard is what you'd see as your home location. It gets straight to the point. It personalizes your learning experience again, like I was saying with the connections, you see what you need to, and if it's on your dashboard, then more likely than not, you're going to need to complete it. I think a good thing about Birch is, at a minimum, everyone is a learner. So no matter if you're a manager, a trainer, an executive, you will always see this view. You may have a few extra windows or things on the side menu, but as a minimum, everyone's a learner. So the great thing with that is everyone can help everyone with just basic navigation. We'll start at the top of our dashboard, or the top of our screen rather, along this banner here. So one of the little things we've got here is a hamburger icon. And if we click on that, it minimizes our side navigation pane, which gives you a little more screen real estate should you have a few goals to complete. You can also just bring it back by re-clicking on the icon. Next to this, we have our search function. This connects us to our goal catalog. So if the goal is not appearing on here, or the topic that we're interested in is not appearing, we perhaps might type it into our goal catalog, hit enter, and we get our choices of our goals. So just to reiterate, if a goal appears here, then it's available to you and you can register into it. If you search for something and it doesn't appear, it could be that it has been completed previously or it isn't actually available to you. Always reach out to your Birch support team member in your admin, training admin, if you do experience that trouble. Going across here to the top right, we have our, and depending if your organisation has enabled this, you will have CPD points, so professional development points. And if you click on the figures, you get a nice little rundown within a nominated date range of where those CPD points have come from. And it would list everything in here if you expand it down using these cute little arrows. You can export this to PDF as well if that's necessary, to upload it to any of your registry boards or applications. If you see a question mark in the top right here, this is meaning you've got training guides enabled. So as a learner, you get access to the learner training guide, which is frequently updated as the system is updated. So it takes you straight to that guide. If you're a manager, or also perhaps hold a higher security role in Birch, all those relevant training guides also appear there for you. And the last icon you may notice here is our lovely hyacinth, and that is your profile. And if we click on our profile, you have access just to a few of your attributes that are on your account. You can amend your profile photo, you can look into things, we've got locations, and you can also go straight to your profile itself where you are able to amend some of your details, not all. But again, I just would say respect the way the organization's set up, and if it doesn't need to change, just leave it. So that's our banner across the top here. A term you might often become familiar with as you use Birch more often, or your version of Birch, is a goal center. So this is our goal center here on the dashboard. The goal center also appears here on our navigation pane. But for now, we're going to focus on this view of the goal center. So remembering that you will only see learning that's applicable to you. Again, if you've chosen to register into a goal from the goals catalog, that will also appear here. By default, everything will appear as a tile. So this is a tile view of our goal center. And you can then also amend this. So you could also look at it as a list. So up the top here, we have this nice little list icon that we've clicked, and you can see that the display has changed. And we have a progress bar with a percentage, and you can look into the goal from here. You can switch between the two at any time. It just automatically changes, and the system will remember the option that you've last used for when you log in next. So if you do prefer the list view, then it will stay that way. I prefer tiles myself, so I leave them like this. So when we've got them, no matter what view, we'll always see a few key things. So on here, we've got our due dates. So if, for example, you have some requirements that are required to be done in a certain time frame or by a certain date, some training we have is required to be done every year, then this is where the earliest due date will appear. So it could be that in our little orientation or mandatory training goal, there's lots of things with lots of different due dates, then the earliest one will appear. If, like this learner here, Hyacinth, you're a bit behind with your training, a cute but quite clear little exclamation mark will appear to denote that you are overdue. And what that also does is take us over here to our compliance pane. So fatigue management and conflict management here, we can see I have to get them done quite quickly, or Hyacinth rather, not myself, but Hyacinth needs to get these done quite quickly. And so it's reflected here as well in our compliance pie chart, or pie graph, sorry. What also happens in our compliance pane here is, like we can see, if it's overdue, or if you've got training that's coming up due, so within around 7 days, that also appears here as a quick launch, little quick launch action button. And that way you can go straight to it. You don't need to search through any of your goals. You can see it here and go straight to it. Just a note on our compliance percentage here. The percentage is connected to the overall completion of any goals that you are registered into that have a set time frame or are due for renewal. So it's at a goal. So it looks at all of the goals that have those time frames and renewal settings and calculates that percentage. And then just go back here to the list view. I think I mentioned before, we do have this progress. So as you work through it, it will adjust accordingly and display that percentage. As we scroll down the dashboard, we have a calendar that displays any learning that's due or any events that you're registered to attend. So at the moment, Hyacinth doesn't have an event to attend, but we will soon or later see how that is presented in the calendar. You can click through to previous months. I think most things she's got due in June. We've got those in May that are overdue. And you can also filter out. So when eventually she has an event, you can unclick these and just see your events there. And the calendar doesn't stop there. It's not just static. If you click into or onto an element that's listed, a little context menu slides out from the side of the screen and gives you a few details on where that goal is or where that element is. And they are also direct links into the goal. So we can go straight there to conduct and ethics. Oh, and just a quick thing too, actually. So this is from a learner's point of view. And something that we're going to do in later webinars with the manager series is a manager can actually see their own training as well as their staff. So your manager, if they so wish, wants to take a snapshot of what it is you've got coming up, they have that option here. those Manager Series webinars are starting next week for those interested. We'll move back up to the top of our screen here to the left here, and we've got this navigation or side menu. So right now we're on the dashboard. So if you're ever lost in Birch and you just want to get back to the start, straight away click on your dashboard and it will take you straight back to the start here, and you can find your way back through. The next button is the second way we have of viewing our goal center. So if we click on here, we kind of get that list view that was similar to before, but you'll also notice we've got two new buttons here. We've got in progress and completed. So they basically display the goals in their state accordingly. So in progress, we've got that here. These are the lists of goals with their elements that we've got in progress. When we hit completed, we get a list of those goals that are completed. So when I said before about the goals catalog and perhaps some training not appearing, we like to remind people that always check your completed section of your goal center, because sometimes they might be there. One thing we also have is if for any reason the goal is no longer available, but it's obvious you still need to see a record of that training, it usually gets listed under here, the completed elements without goals. Another cool thing about Birch is if you've got something like cybersecurity training or any other element that's required to be completed on a renewal cycle, be it annually, biannually, however often it's needed, when the expiry or validity date is nearing that moment, it will automatically move from your completed back into your in progress and on your dashboard. Again, that depends on how the system is set up, but it's brilliant that it just does it automatically. You as a learner don't need to worry about it moving where it's sitting at any stage. If you see it on your dashboard, it's there, it's ready to go and complete. So that's our goal center, the second view type of our goal center. Now, not all platforms or organizations have this feature turned on, but we do have it available. And what this is it's Birch's way of supporting a holistic training record. So having external achievements and the ability to upload those external achievements. These are certificates or records that perhaps don't fall into a goal or mandatory training category. They can be stored here. Some organizations use this to store licenses or qualifications, but it really does depend on how your organization has set it up. You would add your external achievement, and then you also get the option to add an attachment. You can apply CPD points. There's a few things, and we have in our learner training guide up here. In here is instructions on how to create your external achievement should your organization have that turned on. We'll move now to our transcript. So here on our left, we've got our transcript option, which lists, it's probably used more commonly when you're trying to compile a list of training, be it for a performance development conversation or for whatever reason you're wanting to find another employment. You can get that picture of your training. You can focus on specific elements or element types, or you can just get it all and you can export it to a nice little neat PDF. And now the goals catalog, as we mentioned, is something I mentioned before, we briefly demonstrated. So this is where any additional goals that have been made available to you will appear. And they probably hopefully don't fall into the mandatory training. They're there as a nice to have professional development type setting. So you can scroll through and look. So here is those category headings, that fourth component of tags, the category headings, and here are the goals. Now you can scroll over and you can see a description of what the goal is about, or you can click into it. This doesn't register you, it just gives you an overview of what it is. You can look into it, see any objectives, what is the element, and then from there you can register. And you can see it becomes available to you to complete. Just quickly as well, you will see this little button called reporting, and it just has report templates. It's most likely empty for most of you, but if you do have it, and it could be that a system admin or a manager has shared a report that they've created with you, and that's what's here. But I would say your focus is your goals catalog and up those buttons above here. All right, so that's our Birch dashboard. So we're going to get into the goals, streams, and elements now. So I'll go back to our dashboard and head into one of our little element goals here. Okay, so inside our goal, which we would have seen, is a description of what it is. So it gives you an insight into what it is the goal is about, the objectives, all of the fun and important things that we need to put in there. You also get given a little rundown of all the elements that are in a goal. Now, your goal may just have one element, that's one type. It might have a goal with many elements that are just the one type, so e-learning, or it could be a mix of these. It all depends, but you do get a nice little rundown here of what they are, as well as you see them in your area here. So you can see that these elements have been grouped and how they've been presented. Well, what we call is a stream. So here's a welcome stream and here's a reception stream. So if we think back to that third component of connections, Hyacinth obviously has a reception as her connection. That could be a job position, it could be an area, a division. The possibilities with connections are endless. So because she has that connection, it gives her this stream available to her. What we have here is a stream that she has access to when conditions are met. So it's locked for now. It could be that she needs to complete everything in our welcome stream before she has access to this one. So what you might not see in the background is there could be a lot more streams here for everyone in the organization, but because it doesn't apply to Hyacinth and her connections, she doesn't see it. Okay, we're going to get into the elements themselves now. So when you're registered into an element, it automatically comes up with an action button. For this one, we've just launched, or we're launching now, is an e-learning module or an e-learning element. Sometimes people use the word SCORM, but the more general and accurate term is e-learning. SCORM is a type of e-learning. So how this module works once it's launched, it totally depends on how it's been created and how it looks. It depends on how it's been created by either your organization or a provider. So I'll go through and get all of these answers correct. If only all quizzes were this easy and telling us the answers. And what happens is once this completion, or sometimes it's a fail, occurs, you return back to Birch and we can see in our goal that the launch button has now changed to a review. We have a completed date on here. And what this review button does is you can now go back into that e-learning content at any stage, read through it again, revisit things, and it won't affect this status here. This is a little certificate icon, which we'll go into some more detail after, but this element here, for example, has a little nifty, cute certificate that Hyacinth receives because she's completed the element. All right, the next one we have is a document view. So our document view here is our corporate video. So again, this has a launch button. This is the type of element that, again, it's something that you need to see or view. So here we've got a corporate induction video that we have to see. Once we've viewed it, you'll see that the button has changed from launch to confirm viewed. So right now, the element is just sitting there. It doesn't say you've completed it, but as soon as you hit confirmed view, you can now see that the status has changed to completed. So that's one thing we always want to remind learners is just because you've clicked the link or the launch button and seen the video, it isn't until you hit confirm viewed that it marks it as complete. You again get the review button so you can watch it again over and over. You may have noticed before the confirm view button was clicked, there was a down arrow, and that does also give you the opportunity to watch the video again or view the document again before clicking on the link to say that you've confirmed that you viewed it. The next element we're looking at is going to be a nice juicy element, which is our events. So here we have an induction workshop. And the action button is a bit different here. So for events, we have a show instances button. As we click into that, it gives you a list of all the instances that you get to choose from. Before we go through the action buttons, we'll just go through what we see here on our list. So you get given the instance name and the date, and also this numerical figure here of the available spots, which is here in the brackets, and how many spaces are actually available. So we can see here that there's no spots available in this course. There's 0 here. So we've got some space here we could perhaps consider for these. If we just go over the action buttons to this green arrow, when you see these also provide you additional detail. So it might be that there's a location or a URL to consider. So you may have lots of sessions, but different locations. And if it's not noted in the instance name, then it's best to check by using this grey arrow. So we can see all the different ones here. This one, for example, has additional information. So it might be that there are specific notes. You can include images or maps. And what this is when you register for an event, this additional information gets provided to you in your email. So we were saying before, I said before how there's 3 spots available and 3 places are already taken. So in effect, this class is full, but they have enabled a wait list. So if we were to click add to wait list, we get a nice little icon that says we're in the hourglass. So we're not actually registered to attend. We are purely sitting in the background on a wait list. Should someone's place become available, then the person managing that event can look at the wait list and move the applicable people up in order. Whenever you register for an event, you can always cancel your request and it returns you back to all the options. The next action button for an event that you may see is the request button. So what this shows is that a setting has been put on the event where you need to request an approval to attend the event, be it a manager approval or an admin approval. What happens here so that you know that your request has gone through is a little icon of be it a manager or an admin, shows that that's waiting approval. They get a little notification to say they've got something pending, i.e. your request, so they need to go in and action that. What then happens is if they approve it, deny it, you'll get a notification to say as such. If you are approved into the event, you get a confirmation of registration email. So until you receive that confirmation of registration email, you are not in the event. I'll skip over this one. This is a very obvious button, but we'll come back to it. Here we've got class full. So this is the same situation as our first one with the wait list, but there's no wait list enabled. There's no request option to override the positions or spaces available. It's full. So what happens is it does stay there even though it's full, because what might happen is someone cancels their place. And so that's what does become available for you. And if you every so often come in and check the status of your events, then you can jump on that spot if you so need to. We'll come back here to the register. So register is register. There's no wait list needed. There's no request needed. We are just registered straight into it. Now, what you can see has happened, and it happened with all the other action buttons as well, is all the other instance options disappeared. And that's because you can only be registered into one instance at a time. You can't go on 3 wait lists for the 3 same event, but 3 different dates. You need to pick one. And what's happened now is in this additional information is there's some resources that people need to access. So it's really important that when you do register, just take a second to have a look at this green arrow, and if there is additional information and resources, what can happen and what I'll provide in the follow-up to this session is just an example of what the confirmation email may look like. One cool thing is if we have a look now on Hyacinth's dashboard for June, we can now see that the event has appeared for her calendar. If we click on the event, it gives her all the information, the date, the time, location, and everything that was there for that session in the goal. And like I said before, you can filter it out so she only needs to see her events. All right. Now, you know, of course, that's the Birch calendar, and we're not always in Birch. We don't always have that open. So the great thing about the email registration, email confirmation email of your registration, it's a mouthful, is, and what I'll show you in the follow-up documentation to this session, is there is a calendar attachment, which if you download and open, it will go straight to your Outlook calendar, Gmail calendar, whatever calendar you're using on your device, Windows, Apple, or your phone, Android, iPhone. It will be available for you to download and add to that calendar. So it's not only managed in Birch, your Birch calendar, you can also put it into your work calendar or personal one. Okay, and I think all that's left for our events is also, as we said before, a cancel button comes up. So at any time, if you need to step out of that session or perhaps choose a different one, the cancel button will be there. And whatever action you choose thereafter will follow that workflow. Now here, up here is one of our other elements, a document review. And this element type is where you as a learner will upload a document, as it says, with the action button. And what will happen is once you upload the document and save, you don't necessarily have to put a comment in. You don't need to fill in an expiry. You could just upload a document as it is and hit save. And when you do, this status here changes from pending learner to pending reviewer. This then gets sent to whoever needs to validate it. and they'll go through, they'll look at it, they'll apply the relevant information, be it an expiry or a completion date. They may add comments, or if you've uploaded the wrong thing, and they'll either mark it as complete or send it back to you with that additional information of what you need to do. Once that is successfully validated, you will get a completed date notification on the element itself. One thing I would probably want to stress is, yes, we get all of these email confirmations and notifications and messages, but we get so much nowadays. I would strongly recommend coming in here, even just for 2 to 5 minutes each day, just to go through, have a look at your events, have a look at your elements. Have you gotten, is everything completed? Is the status the same? Has it changed? Just getting into that quick 2-minute action can really help probably alleviate some stresses if you're worried about some training getting done. So yeah, if you can build that habit, that's always really helpful. Our last element that we are going to, well, we can't look at, but we can see is available, is an on-the-job assessment. So these are used in conjunction with you as a learner with an assessor or a trainer. What they see is a list of criteria that you need to either demonstrate or respond to via a verbal or written format. And they'll mark it off as they go through. And basically what will happen is, from pending reviewer, it will mark as complete, and that is the assessment done. You can't view the assessment itself, but you are more than welcome to obviously discuss that with your trainer. They can show you that. They perhaps might give you a copy of the assessment prior to. It all depends on how your organization uses that. But you can see here it's pending reviewer, which means the trainer will probably contact you and organize a time to complete the assessment. While we've gone through all of the element types here, you may notice we've got a button here against this e-learning, which says not registered. So before I was saying how when you're registered into an event, into an element, you'll have a launch button automatically or an action button of this sort of variety automatically. If for whatever reason you don't see those buttons, it might be that you need to register into the event yourself, or into the element, sorry. And so you just click register, it changes to in progress, and the launch button appears. The other type of action button you may see is an assign reviewer. So generally when an assessment or something that requires validation of a third party is set up, the reviewer is determined prior to. If for whatever reason a peer review is applicable, you will get an assign reviewer button, and as you click through, you'll pick who it is that reviews and can do that session. Let's see if Trainer Tim is available for us today. He is. So we've assigned that to Trainer Tim. Trainer Tim will get a notification to say that Hyacinth needs to do her assessment for call center and phone etiquette. Okie doke. So we'll go back to the certificates just quickly. And we went to call center and completed. So you might have a certificate on an element here, or you may have a certificate on the goal, or you may have no certificates at all, but it's always a nice thing to have. They're pre-populated, they'll tell you what it is, and you get information on what you can do. Messages and notifications are something that happen in Birch or from Birch, and I'll get them up quickly. I can see the time is quite close to finishing, so I want to make sure I give you everything and every bit of information you need. Okay. So here we can see You might get a reminder every so often that your training is running out and is due to be completed. And you'll get a reminder for any and every element that is due. The best way to stop these reminders is, fortunately but unfortunately, to get the training done. They'll happen as often as the system has been set up to happen, and they could denote that you've got a renewal due or an initial completion due. As I said before, and what you'll get a little copy of, a snippet of, is a event registration confirmation email. It gives you all the details of the session, and here is your little attachment for that calendar to be added to Outlook or Gmail or whatever it is that you're using. So always remember to check that, but also go into Birch, form that habit of following in or following up on those requests that you've made or anything of that nature. We'll go back to it now. So that concludes our demonstration of the Birch Learning Platform. And if you have any questions, please take the time right now to put them into the chat box. I'll answer them after the session and get back to you all. If you have any queries or questions about anything we've talked about today, or you want to look at Birch even further, just get in contact with us through mail@beonlinelearning.com.au. We always want to make sure we have tailored discussions that are purposeful, that are actually going to meet your needs. While we have this generalized webinar, we pride ourselves at Be Online at contextualizing every conversation and making sure that we get this system built to work for you as well as with you. And we just want to meet your learning and training needs. So I hope you found this webinar informative and helpful. I thank you guys for your time, and I hope to be in touch with you all soon. So take care and have a lovely afternoon.